Welcome to the Mindset Mentors Real Estate Podcast. I'm Pete Rick.
And I'm Tim Myers. We believe success in life is dictated by your mindset and your daily habits.
Our goal is to share actionable information that will help you reach the next level of success in every area of life.
Now let's dive in.
Here we go.
Alrighty. Welcome.
Today we're talking about business exit strategies. And I have a quick story to start.
Send it.
Do you have a business exit strategy? NASA's Cassini, an orbiter sent into space in 1997, certainly didn't. We're going to skip ahead a little bit. After a 7-year journey through space, Cassini went into orbit around Saturn and stayed there for 13 years. It explored Saturn's rings, atmosphere, and the information it sent to NASA broadened our understanding of what kind of life might exist on worlds beyond Earth. A 20-year job is no joke, especially in today's economy. After 20 years of service, Cassini didn't come back to Earth for retirement. No one ever wondered, what's an exit strategy for this mission? It had one job, and it ended its service being crushed and vaporized as it crashed into Saturn on September 15th, 2017. This is how Cassini shows the real difference between having a job and having a business. You can't leave a job behind, but you can leave a business if, and only if, you have an exit strategy. Tim, do you want to be vaporized?
Not particularly. I spend most of my days trying to formulate ways to not be vaporized.
That is a whole different episode. How to not be vaporized with Pete and Tim.
It's quite the
topic.
Quite the intro story, which is a little dramatic, but you get the point. It is quite gripping indeed.
Well, the point is, it's funny because I read that to Tim earlier, and he just went, "What?"
My genuine reaction was pretty shock and awe-worthy.
Well, so Tim responds, "What are your thoughts as far as like in an exit strategy business?"
Mm-hmm.
No one starts in a real estate thinking they're like, "But what if I?" Did you?
No, I'll tell you. Basically, for me personally, I got into real estate. I did have interest in the industry as a whole, more so maybe on the investing side initially. But it started with just, I strongly dislike where I am in my previous position.
Yep.
I want to go towards something I'm interested in and align with people that I have mutual interests with. So I met with Matt and DJ, and the rest is history. What I will say is, I didn't know what future success looked like for me because I didn't really quantify that in any way. So it just became a very open-ended endeavor, which ultimately resulted in working a ton, not keeping a great schedule, experiencing some phases of burnout within a year, and now trying to recalibrate, figuring out what that looks like, which ties into an exit strategy, which is basically that in the long term. No?
I agree. Sí or no? An exit strategy means right in Spanish. An exit strategy, a pre-planned means of extracting oneself from a situation that has become difficult or unpleasant in a way that limits overall success. Tim, have you ever dealt with an agent who doesn't use showing time because they're 75?
I have, and boy, is that frustrating.
Is the retirement age still 65? Allegedly?
Allegedly. In real estate, it gets extended a few years, I think.
What's the retirement plan that Howard Hanna provides its agents? Because I started there and I didn't have one.
Yeah.
At all. I don't even know if they have, I'm sure they have 401k contribution, whatever. But, again, just to keep the topic focused here, what is a business exit strategy? Who needs one? What are your thoughts on how to kind of reframe your thoughts, if you will, into I'm a business owner. I'm not climbing the corporate ladder. I own the ladder because that's what a business owner does.
Yep. Yeah.
What's an exit strategy? How do you do it?
Yeah. I think it ties into you want to start with the end in mind, which, like I said, in my case, and I know everybody has a different case of getting into this. But I would say it's never too late to begin to plan that exit strategy, because maybe you got started without having one and it was more open-ended like me, but that needs to be implemented so that you know when that is, what that looks like, how to get there, and I think most importantly, how to quantify it and hit those metrics along the way. Otherwise, it's open-ended, and before you know it, you're 75 and you are still selling houses, which is okay if you want to. Me personally,
I disagree.
Me personally, I do
You
not
should
want
wanna-
that.
You should want to do other stuff.
Right.
The-
Exactly.
I'm just, that's not
We're just goofing.
just new boot goofing. The okay, so go to school, get a job, make a lot of money, put it to the bank, have a good life. What does the bank immediately do with the money you give them?
Lend it out and make money on it.
They invest it by either loaning it out to real estate through mortgages. Usually that's a huge, like that's what banks do.
Mm-hmm.
And car loans, pick your thing. They give the money to other people, charge you interest on it. That's how they make money. It's a business.
Mm-hmm.
And again, to break it down on the simplest level, where it's like, go to school, get a job, give the bank money, the bank gets rid of it immediately. Okay, well, what should you do then? You should take your money and instead of, for the people on camera, go purchase, you purchase stuff straight, just hand to mouth, hand to mouth, hand to mouth. You're just eating, consuming. Go one step to the side where it's like, I make it, I invest it, investment pays for it. And that little sidebar is impossibly hard sometimes
It is.
because that means you can't buy any champagne at Coupe de Ville. And
What,
man,
their
that
little-
vending
and
machine,
their little vending
that
machine,
vending
that's
machine,
$20.
I think, is it $20? I've never actually done
I think it is. Yeah.
I just, cause I look at it and then I want it, but I don't want it. So
Yeah.
anyway, but it's those $20. So how about this? Whenever I don't know how much these microphones cost. Thanks, Matt and DJ. How many times have you hesitated over purchasing something that was $75 or $175 that was business related?
Yep.
And how many times have you bought beer at 1:30 in the morning? I remind myself this where it's like $8, and I hesitate with business. I'm like,
Right.
do you know how many $8 IPAs I've had in my life?
Yeah.
Like 3,000.
Right. Or is just the convenience factor of ordering food at a certain time or going to dinner, just all of that. So
It's $24,000 in IPAs.
Right. That's quite a few IPAs.
That's one semester at college.
So what's the point of an exit strategy then? Why don't you hit on that?
Thanks for reeling us back in here. You're good at that.
Always.
Land the Plane. That's the title of my memoir. Forward by Emily Myers.
Mm-hmm.
The point of an exit strategy is to take a step back from the daily operations by creating a money machine that can sustain you without you setting foot in the office, which is my example of one step aside.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like to start. So my point in the bank example is like, I make the money, I put it in the bank. That's a good start,
Mm-hmm.
but it has to be one step past that where
Right.
otherwise you might as well bury it in your backyard because the interest you're getting from that isn't real. Like it's
Mhm.
just seriously, it's you're better just
Inflation is highly, highly outweighing that, and it's just devaluing
correct.
the more it sits there.
And even if you, again, not a licensed anything related
Right.
to investing, just to preface it, I feel like I should, but I am a licensed real estate agent and I've helped quite a few investors. If that's something you're interested in, reach out to us. We can connect you with people who know more than us or answer your questions to the best of our ability. But I think a simple place to start is just buying the S&P 500 index funds, where you just own the top funds, a piece of the top companies in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And the market beats out any mutual fund like year over year significantly.
Yeah.
And you don't have to then learn about specific companies. You don't have to like roll the dice with Netflix and Tesla and everything. You just own the market. The market goes down, it goes up. It's a Wazi, it's a Fugazi.
Yeah.
And literally in that quote in the movie Wolf of Wall Street, where they're like, because they're addicted, they're rich on paper, but we get the money because we sell, like, and you know what I mean? Like that's what other proof do you need?
So I guess I have a question for you on this, and that is, once you begin to formulate, what you think an exit strategy may be, how do you go about modifying it over time? Because naturally, as you change as a person, as different life events happen, moving, family, etc.,
Right.
You're bound to have some shifts in the plan. So what's your personal opinion on that, I guess?
Well, I mean, I've answered the last two questions, so I flipped that one back to you.
Oh, folks, he got me good.
Because Pete needs to talk less on this podcast.
No,
It's
I
true.
mean,
Where you're married and you have a different current situation as far as like you're a homeowner, those sort of things.
yep.
I am not married. I'm renting. So
hmm
with those assets you have, we're like, first off, answer your question. We're like, what do you think? Because from when you were 20 something to now,
Yep.
what has your strategy been? Like, sounds like when you started, you didn't really have one,
Right. I mean,
and that's okay.
I would say just getting involved in real estate in some capacity is what I initially wanted to get exposed to. And I think over time that shifted from, okay, I want to own 100 rental properties and live off of, that passive income and the, equity appreciation over time as well. That shifted a little bit more to, having a real estate related business in sales. And so, specifically, maybe longer term, that turns into, having a real estate team, getting my mortgage license, building that out a little bit. But I think
Mhm.
the point is, at least for me, I want to be able to have, a lot of time with my family, with my kids. I don't want to be working, 80-hour weeks, because what's it all for anyway? For me to be, 70 years old, have millions of dollars, and then just have horrible health because of all the cortisol levels coursing through my veins from working 80 hours. That's not what I want. And I'm not going to knock people that do that. I would just say that'll be a regret later on down the road. So for me personally, it's time spent with family. So that means
Time freedom.
time freedom, leveraging, investments, but also leveraging, the use of a team structure of being more of like the leader, the CEO, whatever that looks like. So naturally that's going to adjust over time, but that picture long term is what I think drives me forward.
And for your visual people out there like myself, it's yeah, you're not climbing someone else's corporate ladder.
Right.
You've built your own ladder,
Mm-hmm.
and other people can climb it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe is that a metaphor? Does that make sense?
It is. I think that's
You
good.
create jobs.
Right.
You're a
Exactly.
business owner, not a self-employed individual.
Right.
Most real estate agents are not business owners; they are self-employed.
Yeah.
Which is
Key difference.
a massive. And again, say it slowly.
Yes.
Self-employed is different than owning your own business, because unless you have people that work for you, unless you can step back,
Right.
again, definition of an exit strategy, take a step back from the daily operations by creating a money machine.
Right.
If you can't go on vacation without checking your laptop every 4 hours, you might as well be just here doing appointments.
Yep. Yep.
And it's a difficult reality of, again, anyone that I know that has an MBA. Are you a master of business? Really? You're a master?
Mm-hmm.
You done your 10,000 hours? Like it's, you don't have a black belt,
A black belt in business.
seriously, it's, Six Sigma.
So
black belt, but,
that too, I'm curious your thoughts on, so I'm going to ask you a question now.
Okay.
And that's, we were talking about this a little bit the other day, but I would say, this exit strategy is hugely important. There's going to be a period of time where you'll feel some discomfort in just the day-to-day, we'll call it grunt work, okay, for lack of a better term. But
it's a good term.
in order to be that leader that has that scalable business that can be, sold, whatever, that you can exit out of, you need to have some level of experience outside of just theoretical, education.
Right.
You need to have put in some time for doing, contracts, meeting with clients, stuff like that, to be able to advise on that down the road.
Right.
That's, I feel like, where we're at. And a lot of times it gets uncomfortable because you want to just fast forward, but you can't, because there are things you need to do now in order to get that knowledge that you need down the road.
Right.
So I guess with that wasn't really a question.
I wasn't going to say it,
but
I was like,
maybe I'll turn this into, what are your thoughts on that? Because you did disagree with me slightly on it the other day with my analogy, but I guess
which analogy?
I use the military analogy, like I often do, in terms of being a platoon leader. You need to have done certain things first to be able to lead others. So
that's true. And okay, now I recall. So what again, mind works in metaphors. I was talking about this last night, actually. So there's a documentary on Netflix. I forget what it's titled, but it's about SpaceX and Elon Musk, and what they were able to do versus how NASA works. And so this is a perfect example of what like a massive corporate structure, NASA, versus a startup, small business, whatever, self-employed does. At SpaceX, they had the best people they could afford. They built some rockets. They freaking knew they were going to blow up for the most part. They launched them anyway. And when they blew up, they had massive amounts of data because they weren't putting people on them. They weren't doing anything with them. I think he launched 2 rockets, and if the third one didn't work, they were done. And the third one worked, so then they got the contract with NASA. And then when they had the contract, they had more money to play with. And then they built that rocket that could land again and be reusable. But they did the same thing. They had more money to play with. And so to get a freaking booster rocket to go into outer space to come back and land, there's like 3,000, I don't know how many videos, but like they did like 15, 20 where they just rockets just falling down, blowing up horribly. And they're like, okay. Then they go collect all the pieces, they analyze the data, and they do it again. And so my point in that long little story there is NASA is like, but what if we fail?
Right.
But who's going to take the blame? Elon's like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And so with a business like this, and with your statement of, we don't necessarily know what we don't know, it's going to have to be, it's for better or for worse, I struggle with reading instruction manuals. And I will just be like, well, I know what I'm doing for the most part, and go forward. And when I do get stuck, then I'll turn and try to read the manual and find it. But like, you'd be surprised how far you can get if you just start going.
Right.
And so that sort of thing where like, who says you can't start a team without knowing stuff? You know who to ask.
Yep.
And what was the phrase that you said the other day where it's like, we want people to be able to. We want
people to be resourceful and not I say reliant. I can't remember.
I believe so.
But
resourceful, not reliant, where it's, I know how to find the answer. I don't need to know everything.
Right.
We don't want you to know everything.
There's no way you can, nor should you aim to know everything. You need to be resourceful in terms of knowing where to turn to, where to go when there is an issue, whether that's a person or an actual, resource. Say.
Business exit strategy, closing thoughts. What do you do to start? Where do you start? What do you think like someone could do to get started, moving from being an employee to an owner attitude wise?
Let's say we hit on a little bit the last podcast with the visualization. Start with the end in mind in terms of what you want at a certain point in time. You might be surprised how quickly you can get there when you focus, but at least have some semblance of what you want the future to hold in terms of what your life looks like, and then backwards plan from that. That's at least how I am approaching my soon-to-be geographical move. And
you heard it here first.
You heard it here first, folks. Denver, Colorado. We'll see you soon.
See you in church.
See you in church, as GWB says. No, I'm approaching that as basically, okay, now's the time. Okay, I got some time under the belt. Here's what entering the exit strategy looks like. But it starts with that long-term thinking.
I agree. Pick a number, savings-wise. See you in church. Pick a number you want to save. Do it.
Right.
Don't pick a car that you want.
Yep.
Pick a thing that you understand that makes money when you put money into it. Buy a Subway. Buy 17 of them. Like your client, Tim did a closing at a Subway the other day.
The best part of that closing, I got to smell like Subway the entire remainder of that day.
After this podcast gets huge, I'm going to make a cologne called Italian Herbs and Cheese. Capicola.
Top seller, sold at Nordstrom Rack.
Begin with the end in mind. Pick a financial number in something you understand. Real estate. I want to own 10 investment properties. Okay, if they are all $1 million, what do you actually need to do? How much money do you have to buy one, to buy 5? Make it real and quantifiable. And then you can turn back to your life and be like, all right, well, maybe I just won't get that champagne vending machine money at Coupe de Ville. You save your $20 because you have something bigger planned for it. And I think that's my problem with money is I bought tickets to go to Austin City Limits yesterday, just kind of on a whim, where I'm like, God, I did it again. It's like, it's going to be $1,000 trip, you know?
Well, I think that goes into the monetary strategies of paying yourself first, right?
Yeah.
Now it's different for us because we don't have a bi-weekly pay, but you get the point. Pay yourself first for that future investment account or savings for a property, etc.
Plan what you're going to do with it before it's in your account, because similar to what we've talked about a couple times, closing thought, plan what you're going to do with your money so you can exit your business. If you don't have a plan for your day, if you don't have a plan for your money, in the moment, you're probably not going to make the best decision. If you don't have a plan for your time, you're probably not going to make the best decision, because how could you even know? You're just guessing.
Yep.
If you don't have a plan to follow for a game, for anything, it's money master the game. Read the book.
Is that Young Jeezy? I'm just kidding.
Tony Robbins.
Oh,
all right,
my
everybody.
mistake.
We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for listening. Tim's moving to Denver. Anyone out there who wants to buy a house in the next 6 to 8 months, 9 months, 10 months,
or later,
ever, give him a call. Join us next time.
Thank you, folks.
On the Mindset Mentors podcast. Thank you.